So this is my first solo backpacking trip. The reason that it's eventful is not because it was my first solo backpacking trip, but it was also my first trip outside of Pakistan. Like, it was essentially a group trip, but it was essentially a group trip, but it was essentially a group trip, and most of my friends we were there to watch a cricket match in Sri Lanka, and we were going there for that reason, right? So Pakistan is one of the only few countries that is provided a visa on arrival to Sri Lanka. So without having a plan in sight, I boarded a plane and I chatted up some individuals and I had an inkling of what that plan looks like. I would visit some mountains, I would see some beaches, and I would go to some cultural events, right? So the reason I chose the Marisa beach was for two reasons. A, first of all, who likes a touristy beach? Nobody? So I chose it because I didn't want to be around crowds. And B, because of the fact that it was away from the city center, it would be away from the riffraff. Yeah? So that happened. And so, sorry. That happened. And so when I went to the beach, I was in complete awe of its splendor. There was crystal clear beach, gold sand, and there were palm beaches, there were palm trees that were peppering the entire area. So as somebody who had not been close to such a beautiful beach, what I did was I put my money on a beachfront property, like getting the place so that I could, sort of see it. However, I could not sleep that night. The reason that I couldn't sleep that night was because the part of side that where my room was close to was so unruly that it constantly hit. I'm sorry, I can't do it today.
No, you're doing great. All right, everyone, I have an idea. Listen, you have no idea how funny this story is. He tells me this over a cup of tea. Go back and just tell it to us in your own words. It was the waves that were keeping him up, okay? Yeah. Just speak like you're speaking to me. Forget everything you've learned. Okay. You're doing great, Nabil. We're loving it. This is real.
Yes. So I was unable to sleep because the waves kept crashing and knocking at my door through the entire night. But I was not going to let this one off-color event go to phase my trip. Next day, I donned my sunglasses, I wore my Bermuda shorts and my Hawaiian shirts, and in I went onto the beach. After a while, I decided to run towards the beach like. I was in it for about an hour, and I was like, okay, I'm satiated now, and I need to go back. And as I made my way towards the beach, I felt the more I wanted to go towards the beach, the more I was being pulled out into the ocean. And here I was struck by fear. The only thing that could actually stop me from drowning, which was swimming, was the one that was like an anchor pulling me down. I could see from my vision that I could see a lifeguard ahead of me, but I was so panic-stricken that I could not even utter a single word. Now, in this moment, when somebody is going through, when you are faced with your imminent demise, what do you essentially think about, right? Some people think about God, which is what Cat Stevens did, and he ended up becoming a Muslim. But as somebody who had, was losing his religion over a few years, and by this time I was not that religious anymore, I was like, what do I do now? And I was like, okay, if God is going to take my life away, I'm going to make it difficult for him or her to do it. So I turned on my back and I decided to do the backstroke. And suddenly, the drag on my feet had reduced to zero. And I slowly started going towards the beach, and I could see a jagged stone, and I grabbed it. Because it was that moment that I was like, I'm going to live, I'm going to live, I'm going to live. And as if on cue, the waves splashed and give me a punch. As if it was like I had cheated death. So therefore, I live to die another day.